Hour number 2, Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game on this Tuesday, live at La Madeleine in Mount Juliet. Their grand opening today, which has been very good. A lot of people have come through and are continuing to come through. So excited about that, but excited to talk to Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst and the head coach at Innsworth High School. Tim, how you doing?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. Look, one thing that, typically will happen when you have a top 5 pick in the draft, especially as you get closer to the draft, is everybody starts talking about trade partners and trading back, and that seems to be the case with the Titans. We've talked to you a lot about Jeremiyah Love and taking him at 4, but could you see a positive case for Cam Ward in particular to trade back and add more draft assets?
Yeah, I think you always can, especially when, if there's a desire for a team to move up. Let's say the Commanders are looking to move up because they want Jeremiyah Love. And so they think, getting all the way up to where the Titans are, helps with that, gets in front of a team like the Giants, who maybe are also interested in a player like Love. So, yeah, I mean, you can see it happening. I tend to kind of fall in the line of, like, all of these draft picks, even in the first round, they're such unknown commodities, and the draft capital to move up seems so significant. So if you're on, the sell side of it, then, yeah, probably could make sense. Being on the buy side of it, I don't always love for an unproven player. But it seems like that's something general managers are willing to do, each and every year once we get to this time.
So with that said, Mike Morganzi has said that, when they get to wherever they're going to pick, they're going to take the best player available. Does a general manager using that phrase kind of get them in trouble sometimes because it might lock them in a box if, analysts or whoever don't perceive the player they take as the best player available and it's more for need?
Yeah, I think guys say that about best player available because I do think there's an element where you do have to trust your scouting. Like you do have to have a board where you say, look, we invest a lot of time and effort into and money, resources into the player evaluation. And so if we get to the point and, player A has got this really high rating, but it's not a position of need, do we take him and all of that? Like, I do think you have to trust your scouting. So I think there's an element of that. But I also don't know that you can ever truly believe somebody when they say, look, we're taking the best player available. If the quarterback were the best player available, they're not taking a quarterback, right? So it just, I believe that it's kind of one of those scenarios where you say it, but everybody knows that it still has to be a scheme and personnel and need fit at every pick, to be honest.
We're talking to Tim Hasselbeck on the Chasing Big Joe show. Tim, I want to talk about the passing of Coach McGinnis. When your father passed away, I'm sure you heard from people that your father had this positive impact upon their lives, where they played football or not, but he had that impact on him. Coach Mack seemed to have that same impact as a coach of leading men, and you read all the accolades, and everybody's just, this man, the world to me. What is about men like your father and Coach McGinnis that are larger than life, that have this profound impact on young men as they played, as they coach, and teammates and everything?
Yeah, I didn't get to know him. I've ran across him a few times at like a Titans practice during training camp or things like that, and he was always, I think, very extremely friendly, and and so my impression typically with coaches like that care about the people that they've coached, right? Develop personal relationships with the people that they've coached and make the guys feel like they care about them as people and young men more so than they just care about them as players. I think when guys have the ability to do that as a coach in a game where you're spending so much time and, there's such physical and mental demand on everybody, I think it can have a profound impact. And, just from reading some of the things that people have said online, of what he meant to them, he certainly had an impact like that. And, that's more important than wins and losses, and is something that certainly is going to last longer than, just, a playing career or a coaching career, but, will leave a legacy much longer than that.
I know might be a question that you can't answer, but in your mind, and you know football better than anybody I know, what makes a great coach, Tim?
I think you have to know football, but I think you also have to be able to teach it, and then be able to relate to people, and be able to, establish trust. And so I just think that, you hear people talk about it being a relationship business, and I think it really is. Like, I'm sure there's always a point about, football acumen and all of that. But I think more than anything, I think players who feel like coaches, believe in them and want to invest in them as young men, I think that makes a good coach. And so, I think anybody that has played football can look back at a coach that they had and just think about the impact that they had on their life beyond football, just in terms of how they believed in them, communicated with them, and how they helped them grow. And I think, that's one of the beauties about the game of football, and is coming across people like that.
Tim, now that you're a head coach and you're doing well at Innsworth, do you have a different perspective now of the guys who coach you at Boston College and the guys that coach in the NFL, because you are now yourself a coach and you're leading young men?
I definitely think coaching gives you a perspective that you don't always appreciate as a player. I mean, one of the things that, always bothered me as a player was when if something wasn't going my way, if I was, playing time, where I was on the depth chart, just how the competition for a position was going for me. It was always frustrating to me if I were in a situation where I didn't know why I stood where I stood. And, sometimes if you ask a coach, they would just give you a good, oh, no, you're doing great, you're doing amazing. And it's like, well, not really, because when I look at the reps or I look at the depth chart, like, that's actually not how it's shaking out. So as a player, and I'm not talking about like just even youth football, high school football. This happened to me at the Giants, where it's like I was at a certain place on the depth chart, and I really didn't understand why, and I couldn't get a legitimate answer why. And so that would be just like one specific example of, I don't allow that to happen in my role as the head football coach at Innsworth. Like, if a kid isn't playing and wants to know why, he will get a clear and honest answer about why he stands where he stands. And, it doesn't mean that everyone's always going to love what they hear, but that's an important life lesson, for guys. Like, you're not always going to get told everything is great, everything is great. Like, at some point, look, I was fired 8 times before I was 30. At some point, you're going to get some information that it's not exactly what you want to hear, but it's maybe the truth. And so, look, listen, the experience will be the experience. No one is ever going to say, like, hey, coach lied to me about this, or like, that's just because of my experience as a player. That's just not something that I would put a player through now as a coach.
Well, does playing the quarterback position, like you did, does that help you be a head coach? Because one, from a field standpoint, you have to see everything, even on defense. You have to know what the defense is doing, but at the same time, the pressures that come with that position if you don't perform. So, did that kind of help you in your preparation to be a head coach?
I think so. I think there's other aspects of playing quarterback too, where you have to use this as an example. There's a player on the team that's unhappy with the number of catches or targets that he's getting. Well, like, as a quarterback, sometimes you have to be able to deal with that, address that, speak to it, talk about it, sympathize with a player because of that. And look, those things happen as a head coach as well. Those are things you have to deal with, as a coach, just like you did as a player. So I think all of that, I do think that there are valuable lessons as a quarterback. And then certainly, just I think back to my time, like mine, the information I learned from Kevin Gilbride about the run game in my time at the Giants was invaluable. I mean, I felt like I was sitting in an offensive line room at times because of, the way that he would teach the run game to the quarterbacks. That's really important, and that's, I was teammates with, coworkers with John Ritchie, the former NFL fullback at ESPN. And he's like, man, I just feel like my time as a player, all I did was stare at the butts of offensive linemen where, like, you were actually learning stuff. And so I'm thankful for that. And I think most guys that played the position would feel a similar way.
Yeah, you hit a chord with me about clarity. I remember one time in college, I thought I had a good game on a Saturday. I came out on a Monday, and I went from first team to third team. And I asked the coach, I said, what, I don't understand this. He's like, you got 5 minutes? I'm like, yeah. Puts the tape on. There's 3 plays that I was terrible on. He's like, you got to do better. You got 4 days to show me you can do better. And I needed that. Amazing. I needed to know why I was moved down to third team, because had I not known that, I would have been mad at the coach, mad at my teammates. I needed the clarity. So you hit a chord with me talking about how you don't do that.
Yeah, and Joe, I want not to cut you off, but and had he said, no, man, you're doing great, just keep it up. No, man, just keep it up. Like, you're doing great. Like, we had you in there. Like, you'll get your shot again. Just keep it up. Had that been his answer, which a lot of coaches do, because they don't want to have, a conversation where they maybe are delivering some, real things that are maybe hard for a player to hear. That wouldn't have helped you. It wouldn't have helped you become a better player. It wouldn't have helped you understand your situation. And quite frankly, there was going to be another point in your life where you were going to hear something unrelated to football that you were going to have to say, like, no, I got to be better. And that would have been the first time. And who knows how it affected you.
Amen, brother.
He is ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck and the head coach at Innsworth. We'll have more with him coming up next, including what's next for Ruben Bain. That's all ahead here on Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game. Chasing Big Joe on this Tuesday, continuing our conversation with ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck. And Tim, the report came out over the weekend that Ruben Bain was involved in a fatal car accident a couple of years ago. Charges were dropped, but a young lady died after the accident. People we've talked to kind of feel like NFL teams knew about it, but how does this affect his draft stock, if at all, now that this report has come out just a week before the draft?
Yeah, I think it's going to vary team by team. We've seen things similar to this every year, and I think that, that's typically what happens. There's some teams that, to your point, Chase, some teams knew about it and some teams didn't, with things in the past. And then, I think the perspective for each club will, I think in some ways be influenced by things that have happened in the past, right? Like, I think the Isaiah Wilson experience in Tennessee will have an effect for years, even if it's, different groups, of leadership that are, involved in it. So, and then I think when there are teams that have, taken risks on guys and it works out, I think that probably makes them a little more apt to take some risks. So, that would be my guess with it. I would think that this is probably not a surprise, which is why I think the information is coming out when it's coming out.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Would it, if you're one of the people making this decision, would it deter you at all, especially if he were to have told you, or like, I know from working with Floyd Reese, he would tell us that, in those interviews, basically it was is there anything I need to know that's going to make either one of us look stupid? And so if he didn't divulge that, that'd be a problem. But if he did, then, I feel like that's showing some honesty.
Yeah, so that's a great example of it. So, not to make judgment on the issue because I haven't read the entire, I haven't read the scenario of, the details involved in that. But to your point and to, kind of, how Floyd would have, talked about this, if he was asked and wasn't forthcoming about it, yeah, then it would affect how I how I proceeded forward with it. Because at that point, it's somebody's lying to you. It's hard to trust them, if you give them an opportunity to tell the truth and they're lying.
Talking Tim Hasselbeck on the Chase and Big Joe show. Tim, looking at Ty Simpson, I don't recall a quarterback in a long time who's projected to go anywhere from second to the fourth round. It fluctuates every single day. And I don't get it. I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't know why all the up and down with him. And you know the position. You play the position. You know how this goes. Why do you think this is happening?
I think it's happening because he doesn't have there's not a huge sample size. Doesn't have a ton of starts. And so if you just look at the history of guys that, whatever the number is, fewer than 20 starts or things like that, especially in recent memory, those guys haven't really fared well, right? So if you just look at Anthony Richardson, Trey Lance, guys that didn't have a ton of starts, haven't had success. So I think there's going to be people that gives a lot of pause. And there's reason for it. It's the hardest position in sports. And so to think that somebody who hasn't played it a lot, especially at a high level against high level competition in college, there's going to be concern. And then on top of it, like it is for all players, for Ty Simpson, there are good plays and bad plays when you watch him. And so, because the sample size isn't real big, it's easy to get to a conclusion of, hey, I feel this way about him or that way about him based on this small sample size. When a guy has 40-something starts, you can say, look, the overwhelming experience watching him play is this. There's more bad than good, or it's clear that he's able to do this because I've seen it over 3 seasons, right? And so I think that's why there's such probably a wide range of people being like, no, he's the best quarterback in the draft, which would mean he would get picked number 1 overall. And look, he could end up going outside of round 1.
It's just crazy. Are you sold on Mendoza at number 1 to the Raiders? Would that be a good fit? I mean, is he the guy for them?
I do think that he's the best prospect. When you look at size, experience, production, what he did to a program that, traditionally had not been a very good football program, what he did against high-level competition, what he did in critical moments, how he tests, in terms of just physically measures all of those things. And then you would, on top of it, I think you look at his path and you think about the production at more than one place. He is checking a lot of boxes in terms of giving you confidence that he would be able to do it when he goes to a pro team and is faced with some of the adversity that guys are faced when they get drafted in the NFL in the first round.
Good points. Let me ask you this. When your brother got drafted in 98, was it up and down with him as well? I know he got drafted by the Packers on down, but it was like, hey, you're going to go here, you're going to go there. You might go second round, you might go fourth round. I mean, I got to think watching your brother go through this was like, what in the world?
Yeah, for him, he was not projected to get drafted. So when the Packers called him and took him, it went from like, we're not really sure what to expect to, oh my gosh, this is an amazing party that we're about to have right now. Like, can you believe it? Like, this is absolutely incredible. And, just learning some of the stories now of like the why, it's really been, it's kind of been wild. His story was he had one coach show up to his pro day. It happened to be Andy Reid. So he was working at the Packers at the time. He was I want to say it was a tight ends coach the year prior. Wasn't even the quarterback coach. And, Andy, I think since had told Matthew, like, I really didn't care what it was going to look like. I wasn't worried about, like, could he throw? Was he smart? He was more like, did I want this guy in my meeting room? Did I like, what would it be like when he's sitting in there with, I forget who the quarterbacks were at the time. It would have been like Favre, Doug Peterson, and David Klingler. Like, dude, could he fit in this, quarterback meeting room with those guys? And, that was really why he made the trip to Chestnut Hill from Green Bay.
He is ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck, who always joins us on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. Tim, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. See you, fellas.
Absolutely. Tim Hasselbeck joins us every week, and we'll react to some of the things he had to say on the draft. Coming up next, live from La Madeleine here in Mount Juliet. You can come by and see us. A lot of people still in here. I just had the turkey sandwich. It's fantastic. It really hits the spot. So come by and say hello. We'll have more
good,
coming
buddy.
Here on 102.5. Chase and Big Joe, 102.5, the game here on this Tuesday.
Stop being dramatic.
At La Madeleine. Are you hassling people again?
Well, no,
being hassled?
I had to sneeze, and I tried to cover it up. I was in the corner over here, and then our Dr. Crane somehow feels like now he's got some kind of bubonic plague. I sneeze in that general direction, try to keep my head down, and now
hey, that was me last night. I was at the end of the game. I was walking into Barrel House, and I was going to get my backpack that I had behind the desk, and I literally got by people, and I'm standing like in the space in between the audience and the stage and the desk, and I just sneeze, and it's like a bomb.
Oh, well, we know. We've seen it in the studio, right? Good Lord.
I scared a lady.
It's so loud, right? We just talked to the guy that at the opening of La Madeleine, they had a skydiver that kind of dropped in and everything. We're talking to him.
Dropped in. I see what you did there.
No, you stop it, for I'm going to tickle you. And so that was our question of the day is, would you ever skydive? Would you ever jump out of a plane? This guy here has had hundreds of jumps, and the overwhelming consensus on our text line was not only no, but heck no, we would never do that. So I don't know. Maybe one day I would do that. But it always goes back to some of the comments on the text line at 615-737-1025 was, I want to know who the guy who packed the parachute. And I'm like, yeah, right? Is that not important?
I'd say that's the most important part.
I don't want that guy having a bad day and like, I need to get out of here at 2 for softball game. I don't want that guy packing my parachute.
He's driving down the road. Did I pack that parachute?
Wait, hold on. No. So anyway, it was great watching the guy come in. It was really windy, and he landed, and just a cool day out here at La Madeleine and Mount Juliet.
Brando, would you do it?
I never want to say no to anything, but I think that might be one of the few things where I do. I'm not skydiving.
Yeah.
Jumping out of a plane is a hard pass for me.
Well, Brando, here's the deal. Chase and I are a little bit overweight, so we would sink like an anchor.
That's what I'm worried about.
Brando, if you jumped out of a plane and tried to land in Mount Juliet, you'd probably land in Panama City. That current would take you all the way down the Gulf, man. So yeah. I don't blame you.
Yeah, I have to look out for my own safety. I would really prefer to not end up somewhere random in the Caribbean with nowhere to go. So,
why don't you jump on? You can jump on Chase's back or my back, and then you could land with us.
What would we just break his fall?
No, we just hop on like a little backpack on the back of us. We go down.
So it's like riding like a magic
Brando
carpet?
doesn't weigh. Yes, exactly. Consider me the genie from Aladdin, and I'm taking you down, buddy.
Oh boy,
we can land down there, man. It'd be good. But no, I maybe one day we'll see.
Okay, Mike in Las Casas said, "I'm just a simple retired telephone man. When I heard the commercial for La Madeleine, I couldn't even start to Google it because of the heavy French accent with the pronunciation. I've never heard of that place, but now that Joe spoke the name with his Rayon City accent, I will check it out."
Thank you. Yes. It all comes about, if we can get a La Madeleine in Rayon City, I'm telling you right now, it might be the hottest spot in America.
See, this already takes it out for me. 8771 says, excluding the military, all skydivers pack their own chutes. I'm screwed if I have to pack my own.
They wouldn't make you do that. There's no way.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing
There
that.
was no way. Your first jump, hey, pack that. Like, what?
I'd pull it out and it'd be a string. They're like, well,
Go on YouTube and doing that? No, they've got to pack it for you. No.
yeah, I'm again, this is just making me realize this more that I'm good. I'd probably be that person that goes, why would I jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
Was it the Vanderbilt game, LSU game? What game was that where they had 3 none of them landed on the field past year?
Yeah.
Oh, landed like in the stands.
You and
outside?
I would be like the Liberty Mutual commercial where we'd land in the parking
4
lot.
miles away. Oh, man.
Go crashing through a car.
Oh, God, I'll pass on all that stuff.
Where's Joe? He's in the middle of a Volvo.
I love the sound effect of that commercial because when they hit the side of that van, you like feel that like, ouch. Ouch. Also, they got a guy here doing balloon animals. And Dr. Crane, you got a salamander?
Yeah, that's cute.
Salamander.
He's gonna.
I haven't heard the word salamander in 30 years. Salamander.
Yeah.
What's the other word for it? Lizard. That's
yeah.
it.
Okay.
Salamander.
Dr. Crane has finally, after working with you for the last 2.5 years, he finally has given me the look of like, will you tell this guy to quit talking to me?
I was like, what'd you get? I got a salamander. I'm like, I didn't see that on the menu. I need to see where that is. Is that something new that I missed? So well done on that. So can you make a balloon animal?
Yeah, probably a snake.
A snake. Okay. There's not one. Because I was watching him work over there, all the twisting and turning and everything, and he gave some kid a rabbit. I'm like, I don't know how you could do that.
All the twisting and turning looked like me last night trying to get my back to pop.
Get it! Yeah, full circle. Bringing it back home. Sneezing, scaring women, getting insulted in an elevator at the Preds game, and now his back out of whack. You were full hour last night.
You were worried where I was going with that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was like, is there a dump button on site?
Chase is the one that's going to get us canceled.
Oh, my goodness.
By the way, Smashville Live tonight's the final one of the season. Starting at 6 o'clock. They'll be out at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. You can go see Fedor Svechkov and Joachim Kimmel, 2 of the youngsters that have played very well for the team down the stretch. It's all presented by Gary Force Acura, so go check that out at 6 o'clock. There at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs.
So Thursday night, Preds game means nothing. I tell you what, if I played in that game, I'd be shooting from the opposite blue line. I would fight. I would do everything.
I would try to win 9-2.
Yeah, right. Which they should have tried to do last night, but they didn't do it. I mean, I know they're all professionals, and I get all that stuff, man, but tomorrow night, I just put the young guys in and say, go.
I would feed Forsberg the puck like no other so it could get to 40 goals.
What's he at now?
38.
Okay.
So there's that. I mean, Matt Woods, 3. I mean, he could get a hat trick and get 20.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's stuff to play for from that sense.
Is Anaheim, they got a game tonight, right, versus Minnesota. So they're in because the Preds are out. They're in, right?
Yes. Now, they could lose that third spot in their division.
Okay.
But
they're in.
Yeah.
I think Thursday night Preds game will be fun because when you don't really care about the outcome, but you kind of do, go out there and have fun. And I'm telling you, it would be like shots on goal, Predators 57, Dubin with 55. I would just be launching, man.
8771 says, allow me to clarify, your first few jumps have to be tandem. Then when you wish to skydive solo, you walk through step-by-step how to pack your chute with an experienced skydiver.
Okay.
This is also done multiple times before you can truly skydive solo. So, okay, that makes me feel better.
I don't think I'd ever do it solo.
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
I don't be up there with my own thoughts going down. No, I'm not doing that. I would not. I'd have to go. But, again, I think there's a weight limit that you have to get, and then I've far exceeded that.
Yeah, me too. So that's why I'm just kind of like, I'm good. I'm good.
Great job there, buddy. It looks good coming down, but I'm
615-737-1025 is our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Also, tune in to Vanderbilt baseball tonight as they take on Lipscomb. First pitch is at 6 o'clock. Catch all the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Gary Force Acura. Do want to give you one programming note. After Smashville Live tonight, Vandy Baseball will shift to 102.5 The Game. Sounds Baseball will then join on 94.9 The Fan in progress. But did want to throw that out there, that there would be a little bit of a switcheroo tonight with those two broadcasts. We'll have more coming from La Madeline in Mount Juliet here on 102.5 The Game. Joe, this should be your theme song. We'll drop the bomb on me.
Okay. Hello.
How you doing? Jason Big Joe.
Found your way around yet? Oh, man.
How you doing?
Oh, gosh.
All right. We're live today at the La Madeline in Mount Juliet. The atmosphere is awesome. The food's awesome. We've had a lot of fun here. So when you get a chance, come check it out in lovely Mount Juliet, Tennessee. So Tim kind of felt like that, it might affect Ruben Bain. It might not. It just kind of depends on the team.
Yeah, we discussed this yesterday. It depends whether or not he was open about it or denied it, or a lot of factors. I'm sure he's embarrassed. I hope he's embarrassed. I hope he's hurt. I hope he is sad about what happened. That's, you got to be a little compassion involved there in that. But, and somebody else yesterday would say, well, everybody makes mistakes. Nah, not like that. That's kind of egregious. You took a life. But the whole thing about the cops didn't charge him anything. There was no sobriety test and all that at 3 or 4 o'clock. Look, yeah. I wasn't there, but that was according to the police report. So I don't know. But if he's remorseful about it and there's a lot of compassion, everybody, you move on and you hope not to do that again. It's a fine line. Not to say that we've ever made mistakes, but I've never done that. Thank God.
Yeah. So Jim Wyatt has posted the 7th tour of the mocks on TennesseeTitans.com and who all these experts have the Titans picking.
Let's have it, man.
Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, Peter Schrager all say Jeremiah Love.
Okay.
Nick Suss of the Tennesseans is Cornell Tate from The Ohio State. Pete Prisco of CBS, David Bailey. Steve Chia of Barstool Sports. I don't know who the
Chia, right? You sound like Jeff Fisher on that. Steve Chia.
His Barstool Sports, where my buddy John Gruden's at.
I told you, Coach Fisher now, he's so excited about AF1, he's got a little higher pitched voice.
Yeah, he does.
Like, hey, how you guys doing today?
He says, Arvell, he's never going to come on with us again.
Oh, man.
Matt Miller of ESPN, Jeremiah Love, Charles Davis, NFL.com, David Bailey. There's Sonny Styles, more for Love, more for Tate. Ruben Bain from Vinny Iyer of Sporting News. This one I don't get. Rob Rang of Fox Sports says Ola Vega Ione, the interior offensive line from Penn State.
Look, he's got to be different, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. There are no trades. It goes 1, 2, 3. How do you feel about Love landing here? If there are no trades, if everything goes 1, 2, 3,
and he's on the board,
he's on the board.
You got to take him.
You feel like he's going to be there?
You said best player available.
Yes.
Everything I look at tells me that at that point the best player available would be Jeremiah Love.
So the Jets,
not Sonny Styles,
right.
Jeremiah Love.
The Jets re-signed their free agent running back. They've got a couple good running backs on their team. Raiders are going to take Mendoza. So now it becomes the Cardinals.
Yep.
Dude, that's a destiny.
They've re-signed a bunch of their running backs too.
Okay.
So,
But
really,
if everybody's talking about how good Love is, if you're the Jets or Arizona, how do you pass him up? That's my problem.
But see, that's the thing. I think that's the thing with all three of these teams, because none of these teams, including the Titans, necessarily need a running back.
Correct.
But the fact that he is what many people are calling a generational talent and a game-changing offensive threat, which your second-year quarterback desperately needs, I think that's the road you have to go down. Now, what I'm afraid is going to happen is, and look, he's not a bad player, but what I'm afraid is Love's going to be sitting there, and they don't trade back. They're going to take Sonny Styles. That's what I'm afraid they're going to do.
Over Bain?
Over Bain, yeah. So Teron Davenport joined DVD yesterday, and he did make the comment that he thinks that Amy probably would not be thrilled with Ruben Bain because there's stuff. Which I said she needs to stay out of that, but
I get it.
I get it.
I get it.
So if Reese and Bailey are off the board at 2 and 3, and it's Love and Styles, I would take Love, but I have a feeling they're going to take Styles.
Okay.
So which again, he's not a bad player. Like, I don't hate the pick. I just would prefer Love over Styles.
Okay.
I think you would too.
I'd rather take Harry Styles. I want Jeremiyah Love. I hate this. I'm going to be vastly disappointed in 9 days when they don't take Love. I'm just going to be disappointed. We talk about what a running back could do for him. Look, in the NFL, you only need to hold that block for about a second, and you're a good running back could pop by you. Yeah, you got to hold the block. You got to get better. I get that, but when you got a quote-unquote generational talent like Jeremiyah Love, take him. And then Bain's going to fall to 9 to the Chiefs. So I see how this is playing out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could see it.
But I mean, that's just the scenario of 1, 2, 3, 4, no trades happening. I just still think Jerry is going to try to get up to number 2, and the Jets are going to set a record for having most picks in the first round. They end up having like 4 or 5.
Yeah, could be.
And then Jerry takes Jeremiyah Love, and then that's the running back he needs.
Well,
I know they got a good one down there now, but still.
If Love's off the board at 4, then it changes the decision. Because then it's like, okay, take one of the edge rushers or Sonny Styles or trade back.
Oh man, what do you think right now? Excuse me. That all 32 teams are deep diving into David Bailey.
Oh, I bet they are. I bet they're deep diving into everybody.
Especially, the ends. They're looking at like, all right, what's going on? How did this escape us?
Yeah.
I mean, how did it not get out till now? I mean, it's not like Miami Hurricane players aren't talked about in Miami.
You said Bailey. You mean Bain.
No, Bailey.
Oh.
The Bain's already out.
Oh, right.
I think we'll deep dive into Bailey. Like, all right, we like you, Bailey. What's going on? What did Floyd tell you that he told prospects?
Is there anything I need to know that's going to make you or me look stupid?
That is so succinct and perfect of surmising everything. Put it together. Is there something out there that's going to hurt us? That's very smart.
Well, look, I mean, and I've heard other media members kind of talk about, Floyd was that way with us. Floyd was like, if you have something, call me first so you don't make either one of us look stupid. And let's figure it out.
Did he ever talk to you about Pac-Man Jones?
Not really. A little bit, but not really.
Because that had to be – because they were pretty good up to that point. Him and Jeff were pretty good about getting guys in, signing them. There's a few guys missed a day or two, but that was just the holdout. I remember John Dwyer went and found Pac-Man in a gym somewhere on a Stairmaster and interviewed him during the holdout. And it was like, why are you – and it was so different because Jeff and Floyd did a great job of getting guys into camp.
Yeah.
And then Pac-Man kept missing days and days and days. It was terrible.
I view that pick as kind of the beginning of the end of what was, the old days that we remember.
Right. Yeah.
That just everything that could go wrong with it went wrong with it.
Well, in 2004, they did not have a first-round draft choice. They took Ben Troop in the second round.
What did they trade that for?
I don't remember. They had Andre Woolfolk was terrible. That was 23.
Cool.
They took him in the 20s. You had Albert in 02. Albert was great.
Yep.
01, you didn't have a first-round pick. You took Andre Dyson in the second round.
He wasn't great.
No, but in 5, you had this guy who was a pretty good defensive back at West Virginia, damn good punt returner. So he filled 2 needs, but he was just an absolute disaster. And I will tell you, I was on the team bus in Denver in 06 preseason game when Pac-Man Jones came out and made a complete you-know-what of himself in front of sponsors, fans, getting on the bus. I remember looking at the director of security at the time, Steve Burke, and he was already red anyway, but he was boiling red. And I'm like, this one guy is destroying the franchise. And I'll never forget that no matter how he's turned a corner, and I know you got to forgive people, and I get all that, but at that moment, you're absolutely right, Chase. That guy derailed the franchise because he was such an unbelievable jackass. I remember getting a phone call in the middle of the night where he went to a party in Murfreesboro and spit on a bunch of people. They filed assault charges, and I'm getting a phone call at 3 in the morning. This is going on. I'm like, I don't want this at 3 o'clock in the morning. Pac-Man Jones was an absolute embarrassment to the franchise, to the team, to the players, to this city. Thank God he's gone.
The picks after him, Troy Williamson, wide receiver, went to Minnesota. Antrell Roll, DB, went to Arizona. Carlos Rogers, DB, went to Washington. Mike Williams, wide receiver, went to Detroit. And then DeMarcus Ware, who's now in the Hall of Fame, was a linebacker.
From Troy.
Yeah, went to Dallas.
Yeah. Wow.
There's only one person remaining from the 05 draft still playing.
Is it Mercedes Lewis?
No. Come on.
Oh, Rogers.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way, I found out
publicly
where
shamed.
that first-round pick went for the Titans in 04. They
Where did it
traded
go?
it to Houston. It was 27th overall, and they used it on Jason Babin. And they traded it to get the 40th overall pick and the 71st overall pick. That ended up being Ben Troop as well as Randy Starks. They also got a 4th and a 5th as well.
Brando. Doing good as a producer,
All right.
man.
Yeah, no, thanks for doing that. Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird move.
Isn't it?
Coming up next, we'll talk to John McClain again, obviously, about the passing of Coach Mack, Dave McGinnis, who passed away yesterday. We'll tell some Coach Mack stories with John coming up next. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game.